Welcome to our next step on our journey as we count the Omer, counting the 49 days from Pesach to Shavuot, from the first grains to the first fruits, from the liberation from Mitzrayim, from the narrow space, going through to the openness of the wilderness to receive revelation. So let's take some deep breaths. As we prepare to take our next step. And so we bless. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign spirit of the universe, who brings us holiness with the mitzvot and connects to us with the counting of the Omer. Hayom, echad asar yom, shehem shavua echad, v'arba'a yamim ba'omer. Today is 11 days, which is 1 week and 4 days of the Omer. Netzach Shebagavura, a day of perseverance in a week of strength. So we're coming up in our next counting. On my calendar, you can see the asterisk over here, to Yom HaShoah, the day when we remember those who were lost, as well as those who lived through the Shoah, the Holocaust. And in this week of strength, I want to share with you tonight and tomorrow night 2 amazing women of strength, teachers of mine, mentors of mine, friends of mine, who came through in different ways, and yet their ties to who they are and who they were and who they continue to be were always strong. Tonight, as we celebrate this day of perseverance in a week of strength, I want to share with you my friend, Mitzi Wilner. This is one of my favorite pictures taken. It was the only picture, I was the only person of a non-family member up on her wall where she had all her family pictures. A proud moment for me. Mitzi was born in Galicia in that Jewish Pale and that border of the Polish zone, from the same place my father's family was from. She would describe her father as a chassid who had daughters and believed in education. And so Mitzi's father sent her and her sister, couldn't go to cheder. There was no Jewish school for girls. And so they went to Polish school. That act would save Mitzi's life. She lost her parents, her sister, and so much of her family in what she would call the Actions that the Germans held. She was able to escape to another town. She had papers given to her by one of her best friends, who was Polish. And when her friend got married, she took her papers that had her name before she was married and gave them to blonde-haired, blue-eyed Mitzi, knowing that she would probably need to use them. And Mitzi was able to get to another town and reinvent herself as a Catholic nanny. She was able to pass, but she said that for some reason and somehow that she never explained to me, the Gestapo picked her up one day. They were convinced, they knew that she was Jewish. And so they questioned Mitzi. They questioned her, who she was, where she lived, her family. She had answers for it all. Ultimately, she said, the officer looked at her and said, "How many bells ring for confession?" Mitzi looked him straight in the eye and said, "There are no bells rung for confession." Mitzi said she thinks that the officer still felt she was Jewish, but she answered all the questions and he let her go. And that's the kind of strength and the perseverance that little 5 foot, not much more tall Mitzi had within her to persevere and survive. She was able to come to this country, have a family. She was a businesswoman. She was a proud, proud mahjong player, dwelling over children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. A proud Bat Kohen, she would get that first Kohen Aliyah often and had a deep tie with Rabbi Lew. They died a week apart. First Mitzi, and then Rabbi Lew, into January 2009. And what might be the last thing that Rabbi Lew wrote in a remembrance of Mitzi, he said, "Mitzi's spirituality was irreducibly Jewish, a great light that she carried out of some of the darkest places that Jewish soul has ever seen, and into a world of hope and continuity." Mitzi came out of that with her spiritual soul intact. If I do nothing else to award myself any kind of mitzvah points in the world, I helped get Mitzi Wellner to shul so many Shabbat mornings. It's one of the proudest things that I have done, I will say. And even when Beshalom was being rebuilt and our services needed to be in a church, something was very hard for Mitzi to reconcile, going into a church, bringing her back to that time of a different kind of strength where she had to go into a church every day. And yet she knew, she said to me, this was what was most important. Because going to services and praying on Shabbat and singing and being there with her community, that touched her to the depths of her being. And that was one of those moments I learned from her how important that identity was to her and to us, and what it meant, what it means to be so deeply tied. I miss her very dearly, but I carry that spirit within me. And so I ask you all to just spend a moment, maybe remember someone from your life who you miss, who had that strength, who persevered. And perhaps you can just remember Mitzi. Beautiful smile, shining eyes, who saw dark days and yet was able to come out and experience light. Zichrona Livracha. My memories of her are blessings to me. And I carry her on this day of perseverance in strength. Laila Tov, and I will see you tomorrow.